All right, I know there are a lot of other videos out there on installing or putting the 2500 HD hoods on the half-ton trucks. And I watched a lot of them, and I took a little bit away from each one, and I decided to make my own. Will it be perfect? No. Am I a body shop? No. Am I, can get it done? Yes, and that's what we're gonna do today. This is what we got. So unfortunately, I don't have the truck here. However, I have a hood off a 2001 or 2 GMC 1500 with a nice dent in it. But this is what we're going after, is the headlight profile. The donor hood is this Chevy HD. See the HDs, they have the high rise here and the tall front on them. So they look really, really cool on the half-ton trucks. However, you notice the difference where the headlights go, there's no cutout. So it actually has to be recessed right here. I don't know if you can see that, where the headlights are gonna go. So we've got to cut that out. What my plan is to bring both hoods in the shop, make a template off of this one, lay it on top of this one so we know where we need to cut, and then, I don't know, dig in.
I wanna taste the pain. I think I'm seeing all red. 2 bullets in the gun, 1 shot to the head. I need a blank space. 'Cause everything is a threat, but I never back down. Man, I'd rather be dead. I'm making love to fame. And she look better in bed. Never walk this life till I take my last breath. I wanna make a change. I got 1 life left, so I'm gonna go down swinging. Don't you forget.
Everything else on the hood should fit. God, I hope so. From what I've seen. But we've got to basically, I'm going to make a template of those headlights. I'm going to give this thing a wipe down. We're going to lay that template on the hood, mark it all out, and then we start cutting. So let me give this thing a wipe down and we'll make our template. And I think we're just going to use this protective floor paper. It's kind of like a thick cardboardish paper. Doesn't flex all that great, but I'm going to just basically cut this, lay it on that hood, tape it, and then see if we can't get a good trace on there. All right, the HD hood's not that hard to find the center because they actually have a contour in the hood, so it's easy to find the center of the hood. That's always step 1, get your center. That hood wasn't as easy, and we had to do some measuring to find the center of that hood. Now we're gonna lay the paper back down and get our trace going on. Transfer that paper to the center of this hood, and then hopefully you can see where you need to cut, hopefully. All right, a lot of guys are just literally like guessing, setting the hood on the truck and like kind of scribing a line and going. I'm trying to literally make a template here. So I got the paper laid on here and I've literally folded it into where the headlights go. I'm gonna untape this now, put a line across that, cut it out, and transfer it over to here. All right, so we've made our template, we've laid it on the hood, we've cut it out, and I've fit it on here and I've centered it. I went ahead and cut out the little eyebrows here, as far as on the paper goes, and then I transferred that line with my Sharpie right here. Right now, man, it looks more aggressive than it is on that hood, but it's really hard to tell. And this is one of those instances where you measure twice, cut once. So what I'll do is I'm gonna go ahead and take a measurement right here, and then probably run a straight edge across here, and see if that measurement right here is the same. To go ahead and make sure that we're on the same page. Right now, it just looks like a lot. But again, it's hard to tell when you're dealing with completely different hoods. This is a little foreign for me, so let's see. All right, so I've taken it back off of here and laid it back on here. And I know at first glance, like, but actually, if you put the contour on, the contour is right there. I have a little minor adjustment right here on both sides, but it's hard because remember the HD hood sweeps up, so this takes up more paper. But we do have our center on here, and if you mark the edge of the hood and bring this up with the contour, which I'm hard to do with one hand, it actually does follow it perfectly. So I'm gonna lay this back on the hood one more time and make sure that our marks that we have marked here are in fact where we want them. All right, after laying this on here 2 times, made a decision that it is right and we're gonna cut it, at least rough cut it. That's the actual line. We're probably gonna cut like an 1/8 inch below this line to allow us to contour it better with the flapper wheel itself. So I'm gonna put some tape on the lines that we want to go ahead and cut. Yeah, you two, we'll cut you two. And we'll go from there. All right, here's a little bit of an update. As you can see, I ran tape along there, our cut lines. I'm actually gonna go right along this orange tape line right here. And I also went ahead and made a cardboard template. From here to here is like 12.5 inches. So then I went ahead and put this on and made a cardboard template. So this lines up with the edge. Well, I can't do this with one hand, but anyway, it actually, I don't know, my camera's not showing it really well, but it lines up. This is a nice contour of the light itself. So, marked 12.5 inches from the edge, right here. And I line it up with this, like so, like so, like so, like that. And then that edge here, and you have your line right here. So it was just an extra way for us to make sure we're right before we cut it. So now I'm gonna get the cutting wheel, the grinding wheel out here, and I'm gonna slowly start scoring. Sorry, I'll move you over here. Slowly start scoring this, just the outer layer until we get through this outer layer and kind of see where we're at. And we're gonna stay below that line about close to 1/8 of an inch so we can grind some more and contour some of that with a flapper wheel. Well, no turning back now. So I got the outermost layer mostly cut through. There's still the reinforcement on the back here. So I'm gonna go ahead and flip the hood over, and I might cut the reinforcement that's on the back of this hood down a little bit lower so we can maybe contour it and tie it back in for a welded seam at the very end. That's my end goal, I think. So let me clean the hood off, flip it over, and we'll cut the backside. All right, as you can see, what I'm gonna do here is leave some extra metal on the backside. It might give us a little bit extra to work with, but he's also got some pretty good rust going on this hood insulation. So I'm gonna suggest we get rid of that and everything when we're gonna paint this. Well, one way to see how you did is hold it up against the donor hood and kind of see how your marks line up. And honestly, it isn't bad. I mean, it's gonna be clearly some grinding and stuff to do, but I think we're on point as far as the direction we were heading. Yeah, we'd get a level line across the bottom. Yeah, I'm thinking that's gonna work. All right, update is by cutting the slots in this thing and relieving some of that pressure, working it with some of the body hammers down along this seam here, I was able to get this gap, remember how big that was, mostly closed. And honestly, by holding it like that, you'll be able to finish the rest of that way and run a tack across the whole front of this thing, a little at a time so we don't overheat it. Now I'm gonna flip it back over, and as you can see, now it's protruding beyond our original line. We'll trim the rest of that off, clean it up with a grinder, maybe throw a few spot welds on that thing, and then I think getting that truck over here and test fitting would be a good thing to do before we go any further. And as you can see, now they've laid those fingers out, they do overlap our original cut line. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim the rest of these off. Sand this down, throw a few tack welds on that, peel our tape. See what we got. All right, guys, as you can see, we got that cleaned up pretty decent. Both sides, I went and stripped the paint back as well. I'm gonna go ahead and flip this hood over and then start putting some tack welds on that, then we'll get into fitment. All right, guys, we got some tack welds in here. So we got this thing laid back down in there. We got our gap closed up. Now, this will eventually get a whole bunch of tacks. We don't want to overheat the panel. And I just wanted to close this gap so we can go ahead and fit this on the truck itself another day when we get the truck here. So what I'm going to do now is just hit this lightly with my sanding disc and smooth out some of these welds a little bit, smooth out the edge of the seam, and then it's time for a test fit on the truck. I'm honestly happy with the cuts and the measurements and how everything looks. Throw a few tack welds on there, not enough obviously, and we don't want to overheat this metal and warp it, okay? Yeah, you're gonna have to use some body filler and everything else on there, but that's the way it is. But I think we'll take up with part 2, fitting on the truck, go ahead and marking. I'm sure we're gonna have to trim some more and readjust things. Then we'll take it off the truck, and at that point we can go ahead and really finalize the welds and stuff because we'll know how it fits at that point, and then get into the bodywork and painting of it as well. Truck's on its way here. We're gonna test fit it and see what else other kind of trimming we gotta do so we can get this hood job wrapped up. All right, guys.
Like dirty old plow truck.
We got the truck here. This is the OEM hood, so not the HD. Yeah, go ahead and lower it a little bit. As you can see, it doesn't have the high rise on it. So, but we want to kind of get this contour with the headlights. So what we're going to do is unbolt this one, get it out of there, and set the new one on, or temporarily bolt it on, and see how we did initially. And I'm sure we're going to have some more trimming to do as well. Andy didn't know he was going to come here and get put to work. And you can kind of record us just like this. What you see through this screen, just is what you're recording right now. So just don't put your finger in front of that lens, okay?
No, get out of here.
We got help on the recording today, everything.
You want to latch it?
Yeah, we will. All right, so we got an initial. I'm just looking at the lines and stuff too. She's not squared up either. We'll have to.
No, it's gotta come that way a little bit
Yeah,
back.
yep. This way, and then latch it down.
Okay.
So maybe loosen up all of them a little bit, and then we'll shift it. All right, so we have the hood on here right now, and again, on the initial hit of setting this on here, you can tell that we need to cut some more metal out of here, and then this, we actually need to add a little back in, which is weird because we used the factory hood as a template, but it is what it is because every vehicle is a little bit different, so I'm glad we brought it here for a test fit. So now we're gonna go back and add a little bit here, trim a little bit there, tack weld it in, and then another test fit, and hopefully then we have it. And he's actually going to be changing these headlights. These are Denali headlights. They're going back to stock
Aftermarket.
or aftermarket stock. So how these things really stick out quite a bit. The aftermarkets won't stick out quite so much either. All right, that didn't fit as well as I had hoped it would fit. Again, not a body shop, but we're going to add some metal back into this thing, like almost a 1/4 inch right here, and then take a little more out of there. So it's not the end of the world. It's just a little frustrating, but that's the way it is. It's trial and error doing custom work. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm actually gonna use the scraps off of the hood we cut to use as filler. Tack weld that on, get them back here and try it again. All right, here we go. I've never done this before, so cut me a break, man. Just cut me a little slack. So we're gonna actually trim some more off the intersection. Then I'm gonna take this piece that we trimmed off, I'm gonna stick it under the tape, and I'm gonna mark it. And then we're gonna go ahead and cut a sliver off of this and add it back into the end of the hood there. So at least we'll have the contour right. And actually get that section added back in, because it's like 1/4 inch on the ends there. So it is what it is. We're gonna go ahead and get it right. All right, I've actually had an idea. Since we marked this where we gotta cut it, to add some back in, which is that little sliver right there, I'm gonna cut that off on this bronze line here, and then I'm gonna transcribe it down here and then cut it again and use this double edge right here. So it's actually gonna be a more rugged, better seam for an end result. So I think I'm gonna try that. So I'll cut the sliver off, retrace it down here, and then cut it off again so we can use this section. All right, I have got the slivers. Remember I marked the 2 slivers underneath that tape cut off. I then transferred them down to the outer edge right here. Therefore, we're going to be saving this right here, which is a double-edged seam. It's going to bring the contour of that hood right back to where we want it, which I think is going to work out really well. I think, because I thought the first time and that didn't work, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and cut these off, and then we'll tack them on to the hood. All right, guys, I got the sliver taped in there. We will have to grind and contour the edge to go ahead and line up. However, the main piece is in there. Now I'm gonna go ahead and trim this section off of both sides, the inners, if you remember. And then I'll flip the hood over and we'll tack those slivers back in, clean it up a little bit, then we'll do another test fit. All right, I got the inside trimmed to what we did. We marked on the headlight, so we trimmed that. Now obviously we're gonna have filler weld in here and massage it with the hammer to flatten it down. And then we got our sliver set back in here now. Now I'm kind of learning with you on this one. As you can see, it contoured right there. So this has a weird like angle on it. Once we get this tacked in place where we want it, we'll go ahead and stitch weld and fill that in right here with some metal and then contour that. It'll look good when it's done, okay? Just trust the process. Hindsight, now, if I was to do this again, I would make the customer leave the truck here for the week and just literally set the hood on it and trace it with it on the vehicle from the very beginning with some tape. I think that would streamline the process, but that's how you learn. I don't want to say you fail to learn, but you can't be afraid to fail and go ahead and try different things to succeed. So we're trying something else. All right, guys. Andy, my customer, is on his way back here now to do another test fit of this hood. Now that we added a little, took a little bit more out, it's very rough, just spot welded, didn't spend any time even grinding or cleaning up because we needed to know if it roughed in properly. Again, when the vehicle's here, it makes that process a little easier, but Wallace is daily, he needs to use it, so it is what it is. Oh, and a bonus, solar eclipse today. Full solar eclipse. This is actually, now we're like 3/4. We've already gone by the darkness. It wasn't quite dark, but whatever. Anyway, let's get this on. All right, don't mind the scratches and the tape, but I think we have the fit pretty close. Now, this is a Denali headlight, so it's not the headlight that's going in it. You can see it's protruding. This is a factory headlight that we had laying here, and it fits a lot better. So our lines are close now to where we wanted it. We're gonna trim off a touch bit more here, clean up the corners, and there's no finish weld, nothing at all right there. So it's very crude laying it in. Then I think we're good. We can actually get into the fine metal work. And what we're going to do as well, because no two vehicles are the same, back here, in order to maintain this gap, we want to kind of push the hood a little bit that way, and the same thing on the other side. So the good thing is we know where the hood fits. We got a little bit of trimming to do, but all in all, the overall contour of the hood is close. It's there. It's where we want it within reason. So now I can do the finish metal work and get this thing ready for some paint and get it back here and then put it on. Okay guys, we went ahead and flipped the hood over. We got most of the metal work done now on the hood. Got some fine sanding to do here on the metal work, but now we're going to attack the underside of this thing. Basically what we're going to do is strip off this headliner for insulation, because as you can see, she's pretty crusty underneath. The hood is, it's pretty rough in some areas. Our customer knows that. Again, it's not a show truck. What we're going to do is we're going to peel this all out of here. We're going to cut all these rotten tabs right off, because we're not putting this back in here, and give it a quick scuff. And then we're going to shoot this with just probably like a Poppy's patina satin black underneath the hood. So we're just going to take care of the under the hood here before we get into the final body work on the front of the hood and the other side. Yeah. These are still going to go though, because you know what? We don't need them. And we actually got a few extra little gifts in there. And here's the reveal. Ooh, it's actually kind of shiny under there. Not bad, not bad. Not good either, but not bad. All right, guys, so here we go. All the tabs have been cut off, aside from the one that we're gonna keep. And now I'm gonna go ahead and get the needle gun out and lightly needle gun some of these rotted areas. Just get some of that scaling out of there and around here, and then vacuum out some of this, so we can get this thing ready to scuff and shoot. Oh, gotta love New England vehicles. As you can see, we broke the needle gun out and kind of got rid of some of the heavy scaling on the rust areas. And as you can see, there's some deterioration on there. So, do we open these holes up to try to clean them up and make them look a little nicer? Or does the customer just want us to leave them right there and go ahead and prime this thing out? I gotta talk to the customer and figure out what exactly he wants to do, but it's a little rough underneath there. And it's the real deal up here. We're up here in Maine, New England. Stuff rusts so fast. It sucks that we have to deal with that, and we're always dealing with that. And I know other states as well, they're dealing with that. And it's the reality of it. And down south, you don't typically see half this stuff as far as the rot and stuff. And you guys are like, why would you even bother saving that hood? Well, it's actually a pretty decent hood up here. So anyway, I just dropped my GoPro and cracked the back of it, so that's good too. All right, we got an update here. We're gonna go ahead and try to clean some of these up and cut it back. And again, it's not gonna make the perfect shape. We're gonna, I don't know, do something here, kind of make it oval a little bigger and try to clean some of those holes up. It ain't gonna look perfect, but at least then we can cut out some of these rough edges and get rid of all that rust at least. All right, now we got this all mapped out to try to cut some of these out and clean them up, sand them, make it look better. I'm gonna go ahead and do that, because you don't need to see all that, nor do you probably care, because you were more focused on the actual modification to the hood, so we can get back onto that. All right, a couple hours of grinding and cutting later, we got rid of the nastiness. Yeah, there's some different shaped holes in the underside of this hood now, but you know what? Again, daily driver is never gonna see it. At least we're getting rid of the rust. I'm gonna put some rust converter on this stuff here where you just can't get to it, and I needle gunned it. But we'll finish sanding out the base of this hood, flip it over, and we'll do our body work on the other side. All right, we got an update on the hood to go to the HD conversion here. I have got the underside right here where our body work is gonna be etching primer. All of our supplies, including our jet black paint. I don't know if I talked to you or I said this on the video. I've been doing this in several parts, so I apologize for that. But the customer opted to not go with the GM black, and we know The jet black is a nice high gloss single stage black. It's not gonna be the same as his truck specifically, but the truck is older, it has fading, it has scratches, it's a daily. He doesn't care, he just wants it in a nice gloss black, so that'll take care of it here. So we reached out to TCP Global, and we got our primer, we got our acrylic urethane jet black, we got our 600 grit for final sanding, some body filler, we got our sanding disc pads, body, everything we need to go ahead and finish this hood off. So like I said, we got this into the etching primer. I'm gonna go ahead and lay a thin coat of body filler along this edge to smooth this out. Nothing crazy, nothing fancy. So this side will be done and ready for primer. And then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna flip this hood over and start sanding and working the body work on the other side so we can get this thing finally ready for paint. Like I said, I've been doing this video in several parts because I've been bouncing between other jobs and waiting for the materials to come in. They're all here now. It's time to get this thing finished. All right, we got a skim coat on the underside of our body filler here. Nothing crazy, nothing fancy. Again, not a show truck, but I wanted to seal it in and smooth it out a little bit. Hit it with the 150, well the 100, then the 150, smoothed it out. I'm gonna flip the hood over now. Work the areas on the front of the hood here, so to speak. Let me show you a little better. With some 150 grit and peel it way back, or strip the hood way back so we can go ahead and start some of that body filler. And then we're gonna go ahead and sand the whole hood down as well. All right, real quick, not a direct how-to, but we knocked down on these areas here in the surrounding paint with some 60 grit, just to really knock it down. We're gonna go ahead and sand the whole hood down, not completely to bare metal, but really rough it up and get down to the primer layer. But before we do that, I'm gonna start with a layer of Bondo here, or body filler here. I call it Bondo, that's a brand, not a terminology correction, I guess. So anyway, body filler here. Less is more, so it's okay if you gotta do multiple layers. I'm gonna go ahead and do a thin layer. Oh, excuse me, we're gonna put a little etching primer first, then a thin layer of the body filler, sand that down, probably another thin layer. This will probably happen 2 or 3 times, knocking it down with like 150 between coats to get it where we want it. And then we start the process, you know, 220, 320, again, the whole hood, and then finish off with 600. So I'm gonna get these in some etching primer, and then we're gonna go ahead and put our first layer of body filler on. All right, I said this at the beginning, I'll say it again. Not a body shop, but we do our best with what we have and what we know to the best of our ability. So, with that being said, we've started to knock down the paint on the hood to start roughing that up. We got our first layer of body filler on here, and I've got it roughed out or smoothed out. We're ready for our next layer. I'm using the K block right here. This is a flexible block so it can contour to your body panels. And it works good so you don't get that wavy divvy feeling if you just went right to the DA. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it another coat here, and then we're gonna sand that. Again, keep this process going. See you in a few. All right, after the 220, I went along and found some very fine low spots, whether it's nicks, scratches, or whatever along the hood here, and I hit them with the spot and glaze putty before we go ahead and then smooth this thing out with 320 grit. Again, another step before we get to the primer, but in order to get a good top coat, I think you have to go through all these steps. Not professional, but I hope it looks good. Guys, today's the day. I think we're gonna finally lay some paint down on our hood modification. We got our makeshift auto lift / paint booth we're getting set up right now. The weather finally looks like it's breaking, and we're gonna have the weather cooperate on our side to go ahead and get these sprayed out. We got our primer right here, primer surfacer. And we got our acrylic urethane, which is jet black. I believe that's the color we went with. So we'll be mixing those up and shooting the hood and the grill while we're at it today. All right, I almost forgot that they wanted their GMC emblem blacked out as well. And well, as you can imagine, that's fun, taping that all off. But we got our makeshift paint booth kind of plastic hung up. So now I'm gonna hit everything with grease and wax remover. Excuse me, not a direct how-to. I know we've said that several times, and then we'll dust them off, hit them with a tack rag, and we're gonna go on to our primer. All right, I think we're finally just about ready to spray. We got our Eastwood Concourse 2 gun all set up with a 1.7 nozzle for the primer. We'll probably switch to a 1.3 for the paint itself. We got everything in the booth and wiped down, but here is the big question. Me, not being a professional painter by any means, do you paint panels like this horizontally or vertically? And I'm sure there's 100 different comments on this, or even 1,000, but I've done some research. It sounds like both ways. This may be a little more challenging as far as runs go. Let's hope, fingers crossed. At least for the primer coat, I'm gonna do it vertically. Just because we're in a shop environment, there's a lot of chance of stuff settling on it, like on the grill and stuff. So the hood is such a big flat surface, I figured if we could do it vertically, there's less a chance of stuff falling on it. But we get everything all set up. We got our exhaust fan going. So we're gonna go ahead and mix the primer and start shooting that. All right, so the primer surfacer coat is done, and I quickly realized it was a 4 parts to 1 mix ratio with an optional 1 part reducer. Definitely go with the reducer. Way too thick, even with the 1.7 nozzle and the spray gun, was coming out like splatter paint. As you can see by the underside of the hood, which is fine for the underside of the hood because it might actually end up being bed liner. But we're reducing everything for the top side of the hood, so that helped greatly. So once this thing sets up, we're gonna go ahead and hit it with some 600 grit to smooth it out, and then we're gonna lay our top coat on. So before we go ahead and lay that top coat, not on the grill and stuff, because that has like almost a textured type finish to it anyway, so I'm not too concerned. But the hood, we're gonna hit it with some 600 grit real lightly on with the DA, just to help smooth that out, and then hit it with top coat. All right, as you can see, a whole bunch more sandpaper than planned, but I got through it. We were getting a little bit of clumpage because of the slow drying temperatures, but I think we got it all smoothed out with the 600 grit now. Finally, start shooting the black, jet black. All right, here it is, acrylic urethane, jet black. Ooh, baby, that is a nice black. Now, we didn't go with the factory GM, and there was numerous reasons we discussed earlier on that. He just wants a gloss black, doesn't care. The rest of the truck is kind of beat up a little bit as far as the paint goes. It needs to be buffed and polished. So no matter what, even if you used OEM, it's probably never gonna match right anyway. So cost-wise, this was a lot more effective. We'll do the single stage acrylic urethane in the jet black. So here we go, mix it up and shoot it. All right guys, coat 1 done, and it was pretty successful. I mean, it's not absolutely perfect, but for a shop or a garage paint job, it isn't bad. I got a couple of sags I got to address, but we'll get that on the next coat. The grill itself came out real good, so pretty happy with that. Yeah, be ready for another coat here in a minute. All right, if I could do it again, I would paint this horizontally, not vertically, because while the horizontal part of the hood came out beautiful, the vertical, not so much. Let's put a bit of orange peel on there. It's not the end of the world. We got a couple of sags, couple of runs. It is what it is. I'm gonna let that set up for a few days or whatever the required time is. I gotta look it up. Then we're gonna go ahead and go through the wet sanding process and buff this thing out. And the fact that it's not metallic and it's a single stage paint, it should buff out real nice. It's black as well. So that should look pretty sweet when we're done. So bear with it. It's a little orange peely. We'll check back when we go ahead and put it on the truck. Okay guys, I dare say the HD conversion hood is now complete and looks pretty darn good. It's far from perfect because I'm not like a paint body guy, but all in all, the fabrication and metalwork came out really good. The paint came out and then we wet sanded and buffed the living hell out of this thing to the best of my ability. Now, a professional could probably do a way better job if the customer wanted to take it that step, a step further. I'm pretty sure they don't, based on the rest of the vehicle itself being kind of beat up and older. So he's on his way here. We're gonna put this thing on. I broke this up and we filmed it in like over the several weeks. So I apologize, the editing's a little off. We have done another video, drop it in the links, that I just did the wet sand and buff portion of this hood. But he's coming over, Andy, and we're gonna throw this hood on and probably his grill as well that we painted. All right, guys, Andy is here. He's got the truck here. We're gonna go ahead and pull this hood back off again and put this hood on for a final time and see how she looks. And at this time and see how it goes, we'll throw the grill on too. All right, the hood is on. The HD hood is on, and it looks good. Paint's not perfect. I'm not a painter. Already said that. But the fit and finish is pretty good.
Got a shine to it.
Guys, so I think that's going to bring us to the end of this episode. Again, it was strewn out over like several weeks, different progress and everything. We just temporarily threw his grill back in there. He is going to come, well, actually, he's going to throw his grill on when he puts his bumper on and then send me some pictures of it. So I'll be able to post up some pictures on our other social media as well. So check us out on Instagram and TikTok and all that, because we'll have it on there as well. And don't forget the other video we did of just wet sanding and buffing the hood to kind of take you through that process. But this is Scott Flip and Customize. Thanks for watching. Take care, guys.